I'm ready if you are. I have a question. Are essential oils skin irritants? No, no. Well, yeah, they are. Maybe, or sometimes they are. It is a question I get a lot. Are essential oils irritating? And sometimes it's not even a question. It's someone comes to me and says, "Ooh, that irritated me. I, got red, or I got itchy, or broke out in little bumps, or all the above, some of the above." So I want to review that for you and go over when are essential oils irritating, what essential oils are irritating, and some other information understanding about essential oil irritation. I'm Jim Harrison, and I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm an essential oil and plant-based expert and strategist, and 16 of those 30 years, I taught at a university. I produced produced and taught a certificate program, essential oil certification program. I co-founded a skincare company, and so I've seen my way around manufacturing and sales of plant-based skincare. And as an educator, which is my main love and the thing I do most, I've taught around the world. I'm an internationally known, respected educator, as well as an author and a speaker. And I'm going to share that information, that background, that history with you right now about skincare, or not so much skincare, but irritation of the skin with essential oils. Okay, are they? It happens. We know it happens. So when it does happen, how do you understand why? These are things, especially you therapists that are watching this. It's not fun to irritate somebody's skin, especially if you're in a treatment. And so you really want to understand when are essential oils irritating, which essential oils are irritating, and how can you prevent it and avoid it, which is key. So I'm going to give you an overview of some of the things we know about essential oils. Actually, I'm going to show you a, before I do that, let me just tell you that you can contact me here, support@jimharrison.com. My website is jimharrison.com. And the reason I'm giving you that right now, because I have something I'm going to share with you. And as long as I'm sharing it with you, I want you to know that here, I think I want to remove that thing right there that I just, let me remove that, because I want to remove that before I show you this so it's not in the way. Here we go. This is a PDF that is section 4. I'm trying to remember that right. It's right there, section 4 of a course that I have online. And I'm going to give you that course. And so all you have to do, that email that I just gave you, email me. Tell me that you'd like the code that gives you access to my essential oil sensitivity course that I have online. And I will send you that code. You will be able to watch that course without paying me any money. It has this PDF in it, section 4. It has a lot of other good PDFs too. So this is what I'm going to use as my guide, I think, to make sure I give you all the information that you need to get. And so as far as essential oils are concerned, we're looking at them as allergens, basically. But are they really allergens? And this is what I want to discuss. So before I really get too much into that part of it, I want to tell you about how to judge an allergen or not. And how do we judge whether the oil is an allergen? It's so difficult and so tricky. I'm going to give you a list of 26, I think it is, essential oil compounds, not the essential oils, it's the essential oil compounds that are deemed allergens by the EU, the European Union. And I'll explain what that means and how it relates to our use of essential oils. So looking at it as an allergen, I mean, basically that means is you're allergic to it and it's going to cause some form of inflammation and irritation. Essential oils can be allergens, but it's very much an individual experience, okay? You can be allergic, but you would be one out of maybe 20, 30, 40, 100 people that are allergic to that specific essential oil that you're allergic to. Why you're allergic to it, that's always a question. I mean, allergies are kind of, why are you allergic to it and I'm not? Sometimes it's, weakened immune system, but in this case, it can be actually weakened immune system. I'm glad I said that because I wouldn't have thought to tell you this, that if you have a compromised lipid barrier, if your skin is compromised and damaged in any way, absolutely essential oils can irritate. And that's because the protection that your skin naturally has is diminished, and the essential oils can act rather aggressively. When I say essential oils, I'm talking about a complex chemical mixture of compounds, okay? But the individual essential oils is really what we want to address here. So an allergen, yes, if your skin is damaged, there's potential for irritation. Individual allergic reactions, just like anywhere, people can walk out into the field and one person with you is going to start sneezing because they're allergic, okay? Similar things can happen with essential oils. It's not very common though, because most allergies are due to the pollens from the plant, and essential oils don't contain any of that. So what I want to introduce to you right now is the olfactory response. If you are allergic, say lavender. If you're allergic to lavender, if you go out to a lavender field and you become inflamed, irritating, sneezing, you're allergic to I can say this, you're allergic to lavender. Now, if you have lavender essential oil, it's not the same thing. You're not allergic to the essential oil of lavender if you're allergic to the pollens or some of the other compounds that are coming from the plant, usually airborne molecules that aren't the volatile compounds. Now, the volatile compounds are what evaporate in the atmosphere, those scents that you get. But there are also compounds that don't evaporate, but they float in the atmosphere, and those are things you breathe in, and you have an allergy. All right, so what I said is you're not allergic to lavender if you're allergic to lavender. I didn't quite say it that way, though, did I? But then I just did. And the reason I said it that way is because, yes, you're allergic to lavender, the plant, those floating compounds. But you're not allergic to the essential oil because the essential oil doesn't contain those compounds. But there's always a but. The but is if you smell lavender through the olfactory memory, emotional and memory as in, like, I remember that memory. Olfactory memory is a little different, but it can trigger responses because the olfactory system, what the olfactory system is for your protection. And what that means is that if you enter an environment like smoke, if you've experienced smoke for the first time and you're walking into a smoky, fiery place, you are alerted to the danger. I mean, you smell the smoke. It's not going to trigger the danger because you don't have the memory yet. So like I said, first time. So you don't have the memory that smoke means fire and fire is danger, okay? But you see the fire, fire is dangerous. You got to get out and all the things that go with fire is dangerous. Now you have an emotional and olfactory memory to the smell of smoke that is telling you that that's dangerous. So the next time you smell smoke, as most people do, is their response triggers fight or flight. Or not necessarily the fight or flight as in fear and anxiety, but the fight or flight that means I need to do something about this. And what that means is that it's for your protection. Now you know smoke is danger, so every time you smell smoke, it means danger. This is every day, all day in your life. Okay, I'm going to do a whole thing on the olfactory system because it's amazing and fascinating and incredible. And it has a lot to do with how you're using essential oils, and not just because of the therapeutic properties. Because in this example I just gave you, there's an olfactory memory to lavender. The olfactory memory is that you're allergic to lavender. But again, it's not the scent of lavender. It's not the essential oil. It's the pollens or whatever the floating compounds are that you're allergic to. But they're not in the oil, like I said. But when you smell the oil, the scent is going to trigger the olfactory memory. So even though you are not allergic to the essential oil of lavender, it can still create an allergic reaction, a very real physical, irritated, inflamed, sneezing, whatever, however you respond to the lavender pollens. That's the response you could have to the oil, because it's an olfactory response. It's not a pollen response. So even though you're not allergic to the essential oil, you are, or I should say, the scent is going to trigger an olfactory memory that will trigger an allergic reaction, a very real allergic reaction. So to understand some inflammation and irritation due to essential oils, especially if you're a therapist and you're dealing with clients, it can be the scent is triggering a response, an olfactory memory to something they are allergic to, even if it's not that essential oil. It could be the scent that was in something that triggered an allergic response. So that trying to figure out these irritations that occur with essential oils is really challenging. You have to be a detective. So I make a lot of products, right? And I've had 30 years of experience of people using the blends that I make. So I've had the whole gamut of how people respond. So when somebody comes up to me and says, I was responded, I had itching, I had irritation, whatever it was. And they say, well, what was in it? They want to know what compound can you take out that essential oil? Because I really like this blend. And I can't, unless I do some detective work, like one-on-one. Here, geranium was in there. Let's try geranium, see what that does to you. Okay, geranium didn't do it. Let's put lavender in there. Okay, lavender didn't do it. Let's put, palmarosa. I mean, we could go through the whole list of oils that were in that blend, do one at a time. And maybe that'll tell you, but it doesn't always. But it's one of the ways that you can, challenge. But my way of working, anytime somebody has an allergic reaction to an essential oil, especially it's easy if it's a single essential oil, I don't use that one. I just, there's so many options for essential oils that do the same thing. Yeah, they don't smell the same. They don't do exactly the same thing, but they do the same thing. So there's always a replacement for the oils that you use. So the allergen factor of essential oils is questionable. Now the EU has 26. I'm going to pull it up. I have a list over here. I'm not going to pull it up on the screen because I don't have it there. So I'm going to pull it up here so I can just read off some of these compounds that are in. Oh, actually, I do. Wait a minute. I was misguided. This is the sheet I have that on. Let me see. I want to tell you about haptens too. I got to remember to tell you about haptens. Okay, here are the 26 compounds. I mean, if you look at this list, how are you going to know what oils to avoid? This list from the EU came from the perfume industry. Okay, perfumery uses the individual compounds. They may say that they're using lavender and jasmine, but they aren't. Mostly what they're using are isolated compounds that occur in those plants and have the scent that can, it's not the whole scent, but it mimics in a way, perfumery. What the whole idea in perfumery is, they like to build brick by brick. So essential oils contain, 50, 30, 40, 100 compounds. And when you try and put that together, you're mixing a lot of different compounds. It's much harder to create and control your fragrance outcome. So for perfumery, they use individual compounds, and that's where this research came from, because of the irritation that perfume on the skin caused. And they isolated each one of these compounds, and they did some testing. I find this to be, there's lots of fault. There's inaccuracies, and just, I don't necessarily look at this list and go, oh, I better avoid lemongrass, because if you go down that list a little ways, you're going to see lemongrass in the form of citral. That compound citral, actually it's two compounds that are in the umbrella term of citral. Anytime you smell strong lemongrass, melissa, a little bit, and lemon myrtle, very high amounts of the citral. Geraniol is actually the name of the compound that is the irritant. Those can be irritating. So that one I would say, yeah, maybe. Geraniol on that list, right down over here, geraniol underneath farnesol. It's, I use that in skincare. It's about 80% in an oil called palmarosa. Great for skincare. So, these things. Now, this list, by the way, when you look at a skincare formula, and the skincare formula, even if it's in the US, which doesn't require documenting these compounds on your ingredient list, a lot of US companies will do it anyway because they're selling in Europe, so they want to follow the EU guidelines. And you'll see essential oils listed, and then you're going to see at the bottom, it contains linalool, farnesol, geraniol, some of these compounds. What that refers to is that there's a certain percentage that compound has to occur. So let's say linalool. Linalool is about 40% in lavender. If you have lavender at, let's say it's in there at about 0.25%, how much linalool is in there, right? You do the math. 45%, whatever it might be. Anyway, if it's at a certain percentage, that is required for the EU to put that on the label. It's going to be on the label. So it'll say linalool on the label, but linalool was not added. Linalool is part of the lavender. So I just want to give you an understanding of how the EU is documenting allergens. Even though the compound isn't in there, isolated, it's in there as the essential oil, which is another challenge for me when I look at this and I go, come on, it's in the pressing the wrong button. This is not my official launch of doing live. My official launch will come up later. I wanted to work through all the bugs, so I just do these randomly, pretty much every day randomly. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go to another page here and explain a few other things. So there's the allergen list. What we're looking at here, that's what we're looking at, the skin. So in my class, again, this is section 4 from my course, okay? And we're looking at how allergens enter the skin. I want to talk to you about the compounds. Haptens is what they're referred to. Now, haptens are, you're using an essential oil. So this is sensitivity. This is another very important thing to understand about essential oils, is that you could be using an essential oil and have no problem, okay? So again, I don't know why, the irritation. But if you're irritated by an oil, don't use it. That's the solution. And then the olfactory thing, remember that one, keep that one in mind. If you use an essential oil every day, you're applying it to your skin every day and you have no problem with it, okay? No irritation, no reaction. But then after using it for, let's say, 6 weeks or a month, or in some cases, a year, all of a sudden you have severe allergic reaction. I mean, severe allergic reaction. What that is it's called sensitivity, and it's after a prolonged use. And so the same essential oil every day, eventually the immune system starts looking at it and goes, maybe this isn't right. I think, all systems alert, cause a reaction. This isn't good for you. So solution there, switch up your oils. I tell people this all the time. I like to switch the oils up every 6 weeks. Now in skincare, okay, now I want to tell you about dilution and how to avoid this factor of sensitization. I worked with a formulator, and ylang-ylang is one of those oils that is potentially irritating. And it's great in skincare, though. It's great in a lot of things, actually. So ylang-ylang in skincare. What was happening is this formulator was trying to override the plant-based ingredients. When I talk plant-based ingredients, I'm talking minimally refined. So you have in minimally refined oils like shea butter and all these others, you have fatty, nutty odors. It's not pretty. It's not skincare pretty. It's fatty and nutty and food-like. I want those odors because those odors mean I have all the nutrients left in my ingredients, right? If you have white skincare, this is another talk that I could do, but if you have white skincare, you do not have the plant-based therapeutic ingredients. They could say plant-based, but if it's white, all the therapy's gone, okay? So you no longer have plant-based ingredients. You have the name of the plant. Anyway, that's another discussion. So anyway, you're trying to override that odor. And when you're trying to override that odor, you put more essential oils in. Now, here's what I recommend for facial care. 1 to 2%. I use no more than 1.5% essential oil. Okay. So, in a 30 ml bottle at 1.5%, this is grams and weight and all that kind of stuff. But if you were doing drops, if you were doing your own thing, it's 2.5% is about 15 drops. So if I divide that in half, I would have 7.5. So 8 drops is going to give me about 1.5%. 8 drops in 30 mil. Okay. That's enough. It's a challenging amount if you're trying to override. So what you have to do if you're a good formulator is you create your essential oil formulations to harmonize with the scent of your plant-based ingredients. So anyway, I just went into a discussion that wasn't necessarily about the irritation, but the irritation, here's the important thing. If you go over that 2%, and my formulating partner, she said 5%, I think she was even beyond that. And what ended up happening is we had these customers that were just so loyal, and it was almost a year that they were using this every day, the serum. And all of these women, it was a group of women that kind of were friends, and they all started buying it together, and they all broke out around the same time. Really severe allergic reaction. They'll never be able to use that formula again because, olfactory memory is one thing, but the hapten factor, it's now an allergen. They cannot use it. The immune system looks at that as an allergen, and it wants to protect itself by having an allergic response. Now, since I've already told you what you need in skincare, 1.5%, just kind of go with that. 1.5% is cool. It's plenty. That's facial care, okay? For body care, you can go up to 5%. It's not always necessary, but for pain relief, let's say, if you're doing something for pain relief, I think that you could go 5%, and I've done 10% formulas. But at that level, I would still change up your formula. Okay, so even the skincare at 1.5%. I've had people using, the serum now that I make. I've been using it, almost every day for, when did I reformulate that? About 15 years ago. I've been using that a long time, and no issues. But doesn't my skin look good? Essential oils are beautiful. Anyway, up to 5% is usually okay if you're going to be doing body care. And when you're doing body care, it really depends on what you're doing it for. But for a therapist, you guys like estheticians and massage therapists, the people aren't using that every day, even though they should be, because you should be retailing them the things that you're using, because you should be sending them home with that therapy so they can continue the therapy you do in your office, right? So 5% would be okay, 10% in your practice. But if you do send them home with that product, switch it up every time they come in, give them something a little bit different. And this is all about formulation. I have systems that I find that work extremely well. I have not really been, because I've been teaching in the university, I haven't really been focused too much on bringing these systems into the spa. I'm starting to do that now, but that's the system for avoiding irritation, okay? You want to change up the ingredients. You want to have between, let's say 2% to 5% in anything that's used topically on the body, especially on a daily use. Change it up. And I can't really give you a time to change up. Everyone's going to be a little different. Actually, my brother, with that serum that I was telling you about that the formulator made, I think within 6 weeks, he started having irritation. Now, he can use the formula I make now, which is really similar, but because it's different enough, he can use it. And he's been using it for years now as well. So there's all these variations to understand when it comes to irritation and how to deal with it and what to do and how to understand it. But the main things are, when you're thinking about this, is that here I want to go to. Let me see, where do I want to go to? I'm going to bring this up again because, like I said, I will give you a code. This course tells you everything you need to know about understanding essential oils. And I actually have, because I was teaching in China for years. I was over in China. I made some products for a spa and was also teaching really all over the country. China was pretty cool. So I do have Chinese version of my course, the sensitivity course. So if you speak Chinese and you prefer the Chinese version, it's on there. Email me. I'll give you a code to get that. It really covers it all. And what it covers is I will talk about the olfactory response. That's really important to understand irritation. And it's really important to understand essential oils in general, because everyone's reaction has to do with their olfactory emotional memory. There's a bond made. And I have a whole practice on how you can create really incredible experiences with your guest in your spa or practice through creating an olfactory emotional memory bond. It's pretty cool. And it'll also help you avoid irritation. Okay. Can you remember that? So I once had a woman in one of my classes. This was when I was teaching for training for spa. It was an essential oil spa product. And every time Rose went around the room, this one woman would get up and leave. Now, she wasn't having a reaction, but it shows you the power of olfactory memory. So something must have happened with her, with Rose, when she was a little kid. She wasn't having a memory, but it was beyond, pass it on. I don't like that. She showed signs of anxiety. That's an emotional memory to Rose, and it can cause an irritation. So that's why I want you to understand the olfactory memory, that aspect to it. The other thing is individual irritation. You can't do anything about that. And, just move on to another oil. There's plenty of oils. I do want to tell you the hydrocarbon sesquiterpene alcohol compound. So learn chemistry so you know what I'm talking about there. Those are the thicker oils: vetiver, myrrh, frankincense, sort of half and half. What else? German chamomile, patchouli. I said vetiver. Some of the wood oils like Virginia cedarwood. Those heavier oils, they have larger compounds. They tend to not be as irritating or potentially not irritating at all. So they're really good to use if they're great anti-inflammatory. So you want anti-inflammatory, those are the ones to use. So vetiver, patchouli, sandalwood. Did I say sandalwood? Because that's a good one. So that's another factor, is choose heavier oils. Don't use an oil if somebody's irritated or has a negative association with the oil. The allergic reactions are so individual that you'll never chase it down. So don't even try, just change the oil. 1.5% dilution for the face, up to 5% usually avoids irritation on body skincare, and you'll be doing fine. So in the course, I do cover all of this. If you have any questions, that's my email. Just go ahead and connect with me. I'm out there, so support, please. Just like it says for my email, and do that by liking, sharing, all those buttons that you're supposed to push as you're watching this video. But I really appreciate you joining me today, and I will definitely be here again and see you next time.